All right, Matt. So thanks again for having me here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We're going to go through this little questionnaire of all about the product.
Okay.
I'm excited to ask you some questions here to see what your thoughts are. So,
hmm
number one, how has the pressure mat influenced your teaching methodology?
So I purchased it right when I started to get involved with TPI, and it really helped me have a greater understanding of how the body moves, why the body moves the way it does. My teaching has definitely shifted a little bit to a little more of a lower body focus.
Okay.
That has enabled that, and it's been really cool to see the parallels or the connections between what I see on the mat and swing flaws that people commonly try to fix other ways. A good example, you see someone that might not be able to get the hip depth with their right hip that they need to in the back of the swing for a right-handed player, and oftentimes when you see that, they have the pressure on the front of the right foot instead of getting into the heel. Well, if you don't get the hip depth, you can't rotate your shoulders as well.
For
You
sure.
start to compensate up top with arms and hands.
Yep.
So if I can show someone on the pressure mat what I want them to change with
Yeah.
that pressure, it's amazing how I can fix that position at the top
Love
without
it.
having to talk about it. So it's really
Wow, it's cool.
kind of helped me go from the ground up, but really incorporate it with TPI as far as mobility, some injury prevention, avoidance type things with some older players especially.
It's cool because you can measure it, which
Exactly.
and it's something that's tangible.
Yep.
So, how often do you use the pressure mat, and with what students do you use the pressure mat?
Um, Frequency kind of changes a little bit as far as time of year goes. In the winter, I'm using it multiple times a day because I tend to have a different style of coaching in the winter, where
sure.
it's much more of a swing coaching. In the summer, I spend more time on the course with people,
Right.
working on different types of aspects, mental game, things like that. So
Sure.
I don't use it as much. I will say I try to use it with every student at some point. So
Okay.
typically, if I have a new student, almost as part of, so I'll do an interview, I will go through, I'll watch a lot of swings without video just to kind of get a general feel for things. I'll then go into video, and then I'll get them on the pressure mat because I want the full picture of what's going on.
Sure.
So every student, for the most part, I'm going to use it, honestly, probably opposite ends of the spectrum. Very good players, I'll use it with a lot because a lot
Yeah.
of times you can't really see much of a difference in video.
Yeah.
It helps you identify things you can't see,
Yep.
but also your older players. Because a lot of times they're the ones that start to favor hips or knees or things like that. You can
Sure.
actually pinpoint pain or injuries that people are experiencing without them telling you based on what you see on that.
Wow.
So that's a pretty cool,
That's
cool
pretty cool.
aspect for older players.
Okay. So, how has this helped with your student development?
So you brought up a good point earlier. You can measure it.
Yeah.
So being able to quantify improvement helps people understand and believe.
Yeah.
And as you know, the more people believe in what they're doing, the more they're going to work at it and the more they're going to
Sure.
stick to it. So it helps people to trust also what you're saying.
I love that.
So I think trust is probably one of the hardest things to get from people when you're trying to make them change something.
Yeah, because it
change
feels so
weird.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and
Yep.
weird just means you're doing something different.
For sure.
So it helps people to buy into things.
It's good. Okay. All right. So the return on the investment. So if
Mhm.
somebody were to want to buy this, what would you say your return on investment was with this? Pretty good.
I really do. So I purchased it right when I started teaching full time. So it was kind of all right, you got here, we're going to make the investment. It was also right when we opened our indoor facilities.
Sure.
So it really helped me develop my teaching
Yep.
much better, helped me understand things a lot more. I pushed it through my social media quite a bit. Now, being restricted to members, I can only do so much of that, but I had a lot of members come to me for lessons because they saw that on my social
Yeah,
media.
this is interesting. This is different.
So it just, and it kind of differentiated me from the other guys on staff. And not that
For
I
sure.
want to make myself look better per se,
hmm
but there's a draw to me because of the technology
For
I
sure.
have.
For
So
sure. Okay. All right. Now, and if you had to buy it again, would you, or would you purchase something different?
I absolutely would. Yeah, there's a lot of different ones out there. It's a very reasonable option to get into the game. I mean, you can spend 15 grand on pressure plates or force plates. They're stationary typically in a concrete pad. I don't have a studio to do that in. So for me, I love the portability of it. I love being able to put it in a bunker on a putting green.
Yeah.
One of the cooler things I've done, so as you know, a lot of times there's a performance gap between the range and the course.
Sure.
Get out on the golf course, someone struggling with their tee shot, throw the pressure mat down, you're going to see things that you will never see on a driving range.
Wow.
So
People
being
hang
able
back
to-
more, whatever.
Exactly. So being able to tailor thoughts on course lessons using that is a really useful tool.
That's really cool. So the biggest thing I got away from this, guys, was being able to take this on the putting green, the chipping area, short game, bunkers on the range, but just hearing that of being able to take it on the golf course, I think is huge because as a coach, you kind of wonder, like, sometimes people will be like, man, I'm hitting it so good in the range. Why am I not taking it to the course? Then they start to see, like, wow, there's a big difference. You're hanging back way more, or man, you're swaying so much more in the course. Then we start talking about that. Maybe it's even mental, right? Like,
Absolutely.
fear or worry or trying to guide the golf ball can change our swing tremendously. So I think this is a great tool. And if you're teaching, this could be a great tool for you to invest in. Because, like you said, I think it's only a couple $1,000s, which is
Yeah, it's not bad at
reasonable
all.
for, compared to other things. So this is great.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Thank you so much for your
You're
time
welcome.
today.
My pleasure.